Okay, I think we have quite a bit of an audience to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and do our introductions for today's CareConnect Convo. I'm Lane Galata. I'm one of the marketing team members here at Kelsey-Seybold, and I'm thrilled to be doing these CareConnect Convos to continue connecting with everyone in the greater Houston area, especially with the pandemic we have going on right now. We want to make sure that we stay connected to all of our patients and the community. So Rhonda, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Rhonda Elsenbrook. She is a registered dietitian with Kelsey-Seybold. So we're going to have a great discussion with her today. But before we begin our talk, Rhonda, can you tell me a little bit about your practice and maybe why you chose to become a registered dietitian?
Well, I've always had a love of food, obviously. So I've enjoyed learning how important the role of what we eat, how we fuel our bodies can not only keep us healthy, but also if things go wrong, it helps us in managing anything that might come up. So I've been doing this a lot of years, and I enjoy the variety of working with all ages, as well as all different types of medical issues that might come up that people need help with, as well as just how to stay healthy, how to keep going through the life cycle and taking the best care of yourself.
So you mentioned life cycle. I think it's important for everyone to realize that nutrition and healthy habits are a lifelong practice, and I'm sure you would agree with that as well. So can we talk a little bit about fad diets? Are fad diets beneficial for quick weight loss, and are there any concerns with them? I know you see them trending on social media, like for instance, cleanses and juices and keto diet, Whole30. What are your thoughts on those type of fads?
Well, with the different fads that are out there, they have one common denominator, and that is there is a deficit in some capacity, whether they eliminate certain food groups or have you eat, in a certain timing, you're reducing your overall intake. And so any of them for short periods of time can create weight loss. The problem is the second that you stop them, you're going to see that weight regain. So to do something and follow a certain program, as long as it doesn't interfere with potentially any medications that you might be taking, I don't discourage people if they want to try something to try it, just knowing that that may be just a kickstart. That is not necessarily a lifelong weight maintenance program unless they actually can sustain that particular diet.
And are there any health concerns with creating deficits within your nutrition with these and your intake with these fad diets?
I don't see a lot of deficits, and partly because people don't stick with them long because they're hard. People are going to want to eat, you know, a variety of things depending on vacations, depending on holidays. So most people don't tend to stay on them for endless amounts of time to actually create a nutrition deficit. So it's, like I said, I like to work with people so that they know how to do something correctly. And they also know how to transition if they decide that this isn't going to work for them into something more long-term.
So you mentioned vacations. I'm a mom of 4 little ones. We're always on the go. We have a very busy, active lifestyle. What are some of your favorite snacks you would recommend to your patients? Healthy snacks. I find that it's really easy to grab a snack bar that's filled with sugar and lots of other things. Do you have any advice for easy snacks throughout the day, even for our attendees who are at work?
Because of being a dietitian, I am a big pusher of eating lots of plants, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. So I like to incorporate them in every meal and every possible snack. Where I think a lot of times we get in trouble with the snacking on the go is we didn't prepare things. So just like you mentioned, it's easy to walk in the pantry, grab a packaged bar and run out the door. But if we create little snack packs that have maybe some cut up raw vegetables and hummus or dip, or we have fresh fruit that's already washed and prepared. Nuts of all varieties are a great source of protein and healthy fat, and maybe even like little cubes of cheese. If you can keep it in a temperature controlled environment, make good kind of combinations of snacks.
And are there any restrictions on how many snacks you should have a day in terms of, do you have a morning snack, a midday snack, a late night snack?
I personally am not a big believer that we need to snack as adults anyway. I'll put that out there. Kids can't eat as much as they need to grow and develop at one sitting. And so they may need more snacks. So basically my rule is if you have long stretches of time and you are truly physically hungry, that's the appropriate time to put a snack in. Just make sure that your stomach is requesting that fuel and you're not just bored or just looking for something to do.
So we talked a little bit about frequency with snacks, but what about portions? How important is portion size when you're looking at maintaining a healthy diet and healthy habits?
So portion is everything, because even if we're overeating good, healthy, whole food, that can be more calories, more fuel than the body needs, and that can create a weight issue. So the way I can help people with portion control, your hands are your perfect portion. So if you put your two hands out in front of you, palms up, that creates an entire meal. It should fit in a plate about that size. People with bigger hands get to eat more than people with smaller hands. It's just the way that they are. If it's a snack shouldn't be as big as a meal, so that should just be one hand and just, something you could hold in one hand. And that's kind of a good rule of thumb for meals and snacks to portion.
So is it better to focus on watching your portions or trying to calculate calories when you're trying to plan out a meal? Or do they sort of go hand in hand?
It depends on the food, to be honest. So when we get into what I call like low calorie dense foods, so like let's take vegetables for instance. Vegetables are the lowest calorie as far as density. So a pound of vegetables is going to be huge in volume, but much lower in calories than say a pound of rice or a pound of nuts. So when you're eating, your produce basically, you can have a bigger portion and keep your calories low compared to if you're eating something especially packaged, something that can sit on that shelf, the grains, the snack foods, that kind of thing. So calories do count to some degree, but the quality of the calories is important. So I always start people with portion.
And how many calories do you have to cut in your diet to lose a pound? So if we have attendees who are tuning in and they're saying, well, I don't understand how many calories I should cut or portion sizes, do you have a guide or any resources you would suggest in terms of calculating the number of calories you should consume for weight loss?
So it takes, in a perfect setting, it takes about 3,500 calories of a deficit to lose 1 pound, which would be, if you take like a week, 7 days, if you reduce 500 calories a day for 7 days, technically you should lose a pound of body weight. However, the body is very adaptive, and depending on what you've done as far as dieting and restricting in the past, your body might be somewhat resistant. So where we find most people do the best is we still kind of go for that 500 calorie a day deficit, but not all from food. So you might reduce a couple hundred calories. Maybe you skip that nighttime snack to cut a couple hundred calories, but you up your activity level and you burn a couple hundred calories, and then combined together, you will be able to reduce weight.
What about apps? We know there are a lot of apps out there to help with weight loss. Noom is one that's trending on social media right now. Stronger You, MyFitnessPal. How do these play into weight loss, and are any of them really helpful for changing your habits long term?
So the apps that are food tracker apps, such as the MyFitnessPal or Lose It, those apps help you be more aware of where you are. How many calories are you eating? What is the breakdown of your nutrition? from if you're interested in carbohydrates or proteins or fats, depending on what else you've got going on from your health. They're a really good tool to see where you are compared to where you should be. Other apps such as the Noom that you mentioned is really good when we know what we should do, but we struggle with that day-to-day creating, healthy behaviors, healthy habits. It's more of a behavior modification, healthy habit type app. But I encourage people, if they're interested, to try something. I know that MyFitnessPal and Lose It, a lot of those apps are free. You can pay for a premium version, but you don't need to. They work just fine. Noom, at least in the beginning of this pandemic, was offering their service for free for a period of time to see if people were interested. So by all means, check things out right now, because you might be able to try something for free and see if it's something you want to continue.
At what point should someone schedule an appointment with a dietitian in Kelsey-Seybold? So is it to the point where you're really struggling or you're not sure what to do? And I guess, how can you help all of us achieve a healthier lifestyle?
So everything that we do as dietitians is done individually. So whatever you come in with, we're going to work with where you are and where you're trying to get to help you. I do encourage people to be mindful, know what your strengths are, know where your challenges are, and use us to be able to, help guide you. Because a lot of people, I would say most people that come in my office, they know what they should do, but they sometimes struggle with either this new diagnosis or medicine they don't know how to work with, or they just can't figure out how to do what they should do in their day-to-day life. And I love to be able to come in and help problem solve for that.
So we're going to ask you a little bit of a personal question here. What are some of your favorite healthy recipes and cookbooks and websites that you source when you're looking for recipes to cook at home?
I have a few go-tos, and I use them in multiple ways. I use them to help with meal planning, meal prepping ideas, as well as just good healthy recipes. My two favorite websites are, one's called eatingwell.com, and it has everything. It's a huge website. There's also another one called skinnytaste.com. I actually learned about that years ago from one of my patients, and I love it. They send me weekly emails with meal plans and recipes. The Food Network channel that we've probably all seen at some point in time actually has a new free app that you can download, and they offer every kind of cooking tip, from the most basic thing for people that really just don't even know how to cook at all to things that are much more complicated. And it's available 24 hours a day, and you actually can do live chats with some of their chefs. I get a lot of ideas off of Pinterest and YouTube. There's a lot of people out there that have come up with fabulous ideas for meal planning, meal prepping, healthy lunches on the go. It's just good information that, instead of recreating the wheel, just go to those resources.
Are there any websites or resources you would advise people to stay away from? I know sometimes finding reliable information out there can be hard, especially medical information. Can you kind of guide us where we should be looking for information about, how do we calculate our, how many calories we should be consuming per day, or what is our BMI? Where should you look for resources for those?
A good kind of basic website that has a lot of nutrition information is our government website, the choosemyplate.gov. We use that a lot. I use it with children when I'm working with children, because there's a lot of fun interactive things with kids for that. But that's a great place to start. And then just kind of, if you have any questions that are more specific to you, use your resources, use your primary care doctor, or, or we're always available. All the dietitians are available.
So we had a question that came in from an attendee about fermented foods. Can eating fermented foods help with weight loss and changing the composition of your gut flora?
So fermented foods are very good to have a healthy digestive system, to have a healthy gut, because they help with kind of the good guys, the good bacteria that we want a lot of to be able to absorb our food and get the most nutrition. So it's not that they're magical in any form of weight loss, but they definitely are good for the body.
So we have some other questions that have come in. One of them is regarding kids and nutrition. At what point would you know if your child is obese and needs to see a dietitian?
With kids, we obviously are not going to put a child on a diet. So it's really just kind of looking at the overall habits of your child as well as the whole family. I tackle children's nutrition as it's a family situation. So as long as you are getting these healthy whole foods in the house that are readily available to your children, create structure. What I'm hearing a lot of right now is that, you know, because the kids have been home for so long, they are just constantly going in the kitchen and grabbing food and grazing, and try to create that structure just like they have at school, where they have set meal times, set snack times. And if it's not one of those times, try to get them active and playing, whether it's in the backyard or just inside doing some fun active videos. That would help.
So we're still getting quite a few questions coming in from attendees, which is great. We're getting them coming in on social media and via Zoom. So we're kind of going to bounce back and forth a little bit to answer those. One of the questions that came in on Facebook was regarding exercise and calorie deficits. How do you know how many calories you're burning while exercising?
It's hard to know exactly, because obviously the fitter you are, the less challenging your workout is, the less you're going to burn if you're trying to do the same workout the same way. Some of the watches, the smart watches, the Apple watches, the Fitbit, some of those can help if you really want to kind of hone in on those calorie numbers.
And then regarding calories and exercising again, the second part of that question was, how do you know when you're exercising too much? When you're trying to balance diet and exercise?
Well, when you exercise, obviously you're going to be tired when you're done, but it should energize you. You should feel great, you know, once you kind of cooled off from the outside, but it should leave you energized. You should be sleeping well. If you're getting really fatigued, if your legs are feeling very heavy, and it's just getting harder and harder for you to do what you're doing, you might need to back off or change and do something different.
So I think this is a really interesting question that came in. It's about meeting with a dietitian at Kelsey. If someone were to come in and meet with you in their office, what kind of tests would you run, or would you run any sort of lab work or anything like that to determine their overall health?
We don't actually do any form of lab work. That has to be done through their physician of anything that they're concerned about. So if they feel like they may have some deficiency somewhere, they would need to talk to their doctor to get that done.
And that would be their primary care or specialty care doctor at Kelsey?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, I think we're going to wrap up today. I know you have to get back to seeing patients, so we want to be mindful of your time as well. So thank you, Rhonda, for joining us. This was incredible, helpful information. I hope that everyone who is home or at work can apply this, especially right now. I know a lot of us are struggling with maintaining our healthy habits. So
thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. And we will be back next week with another CareConnect Convo. So if you're interested in joining us again next week, tune in. We'll have more conversations with our providers at Kelsey coming for you through the summer. So have a great afternoon, everyone. And thanks again, Rhonda.
Thank you. Bye-bye.